The sky of Orion 7 burned red as the sun set behind the rocky hills. The settlers of this small colony gathered inside their meeting hall, a wide structure made of stone and metal. Their faces were filled with fear. Outside their walls, ships of the invader fleet floated in the sky like dark shadows. The aliens who ruled that fleet were demanding surrender. The settlers had no army, no weapons strong enough to fight. They were farmers, builders, and teachers. An elder named Marin stood at the center of the hall. His voice was steady, but his eyes showed worry. He said to the people, "We cannot fight them. We do not have the strength. But we still have one choice. We can call for help." A younger settler named Jorah asked, "Help from who?" "No one dares to fight the Empire. We are alone." Marin shook his head. "Not alone. There is one world left in the old records. A world of storms, beasts, and endless struggle. The stories call it Earth." The crowd murmured. Some shook their heads in doubt. The name sounded like legend, a tale told to children when the nights grew long. Few believed Earth was real. But Marin raised his hand. "Our ancestors wrote of humans. They lived on a world so harsh that every day was survival. They grew strong because their planet gave them no kindness. If anyone can endure against an empire, it is them." Jorah frowned. "But will they answer us? Why would they come all this way for strangers?" Marin looked at the group with calm eyes. "Because humans remember what it means to suffer. That is why they may listen." The settlers had no better choice. Their crops were being taken, their trade ships were destroyed, and the Empire promised only slavery. At last, they agreed to send a message across the void. In the corner of the hall, engineers carried a small transmitter. It was old and weak, but it still worked. They linked it to a satellite orbiting the colony. The signal would travel far, though it might take weeks or months before anyone received it. Still, it was their only hope. The settlers gathered close as Marin spoke into the transmitter. His words were simple. "This is Orion 7. We are a colony under attack. We cannot defend ourselves. If any human worlds hear this, we ask for aid. Our lives depend on you. This is our SOS." The machine gave a faint hum, and then the message was carried away into the endless dark of space. The hall grew quiet. For a long time, no one spoke. Outside, children looked up at the night sky. The stars shone brightly, but in the distance, the fleet of the Empire still hung above the planet like a cage. The children asked their parents, "Will the humans come?" The parents had no answer. In the days that followed, life on Orion 7 grew harder. The invaders tightened their blockade. Supplies ran low. Families rationed water and food. Each day, the people looked to the sky, hoping to see something new. Jorah often stood on the colony walls, watching the horizon. He whispered to himself, "If Earth is real, if the stories are true, let them hear us." The invaders sent another demand. Their message came from a giant ship with flashing lights. "Surrender now. Work for us, and you may live. Refuse, and you will starve." The settlers gathered again in the hall. Anger burned in their voices, but so did fear. A farmer said, "If help does not come, our children will not survive." Marin raised his hand once more. "Do not lose hope. The signal is already on its way. Somewhere, perhaps very far, humans may be listening. They may already be preparing." The people tried to believe. But the nights felt longer now, and silence filled the colony streets. Every day, the shadow of the Empire ships reminded them of their weakness. Yet, deep inside, a spark of faith remained. It lived in their stories, in the whispers of the past. The settlers of Orion 7 did not know if Earth would hear them, but they trusted the legends. The legends said that humans were not like other species. They were born on a world that tried to kill them with storms, heat, cold, and predators. To survive, they became stronger than fear itself. If such a people still lived, perhaps they would not ignore the cry of Orion 7. Perhaps the SOS would reach them. On the seventh night after sending the signal, Marin stood outside the hall and gazed at the stars. The invader fleet was still there, waiting to crush the colony. He whispered, "Earth, if you exist, hear us. Do not let this be our end." The wind carried his words across the silent colony. The stars gave no answer. But far away, beyond countless suns and dust clouds, the signal continued to travel. It moved past empty worlds, broken stations, and abandoned ships. It carried the voice of Orion 7 farther and farther, until one day, it would reach ears that were ready to listen. The people of Orion 7 did not yet know it, but their call had begun a chain of events that would awaken the most feared survivors of the galaxy. Humanity was about to be reminded of what it meant to answer an SOS. On the far side of the moon, hidden under layers of rock and steel, a human listening station kept watch over the galaxy. Its halls were quiet, filled with the hum of machines and the steady glow of monitors. Most signals the station caught were ordinary, ship beacons, trade messages, or old echoes from distant stars. But one evening, the silence broke. A faint sound appeared on the receivers. At first, the workers thought it was static. Then the signal grew clearer. The words were weak but steady. "This is Orion 7. We are under attack. We cannot defend ourselves. If any human worlds hear this, we ask for aid. Our lives depend on you. This is our SOS." The workers stared at each other. They had never heard such a message before. One of them, a young technician named Lyra, leaned closer to the monitor. "It is not a trick," she said. "This is real. Someone far away is calling for us." The signal was quickly copied and sent to Earth's Central Council. Within hours, leaders, scientists, and historians gathered in the Great Chamber of New Geneva. The chamber was a circle of glass and steel, where the sky above showed the stars of the night. At the center, a large screen replayed the message again and again. "This is Orion 7. We ask for aid." Some council members looked uneasy. One of them, a cautious man named Bren, spoke first. "Why should we answer this? The colony belongs to another species. Their war is not our war. If we interfere, we will bring danger upon ourselves." Another member, Selin, shook her head. "Listen to the words. They called to us. Not to anyone else. They remembered Earth. We cannot ignore that." The room grew tense. Some argued that humanity had enough struggles of its own. Earth was strong, but still healing from centuries of rebuilding. Mars colonies needed supplies, the stations around Jupiter demanded trade, and fleets were costly to maintain. To send aid across the stars would be a great risk. But then the historian Arvin stood. His voice was quiet, yet it carried weight. "Long ago, when humanity was weak, we cried out for help and no one came. We survived because we had no choice. The galaxy calls us Deathworlders, for our home shaped us with fire, ice, storms, and hunger. If we, who know suffering better than most, turn away from Orion 7, then we have forgotten who we are." Silence filled the chamber. The words of Arvin reached even those who doubted. Humans had indeed grown from hardship. Their history was filled with struggle, yet also with survival. And now another world had trusted them enough to send a final cry. At last, the council leader rose. "We will answer. Not because we seek war, but because we know what it means to stand alone. Prepare the fleet." Across Earth and Mars, preparations began. Huge shipyards, resting in orbit, came alive. Engines roared as giant vessels powered up. These ships were not fragile. Their armor was layered and scarred from past trials. They were built with one purpose: to endure. In the academy on Mars, young pilots received new orders. Among them was Ryan, a pilot known for his calm spirit. As he read the message from Orion 7, he felt a weight on his chest. He thought of the settlers, waiting for an answer. He thought of his own people, once desperate, once ignored. "We cannot fail them," he said quietly. On Earth, families gathered to watch the news. Screens showed images of the fleet preparing. Many felt fear, but also pride. For the first time in a long while, humanity was not only defending itself. It was stepping forward to protect others. In the space yards, workers loaded supplies, food, medicine, water filters, and tools alongside weapons and armor. This mission was not only about battle. It was about survival, about keeping hope alive for Orion 7. The decision spread quickly across the colonies. From Luna to Titan, people whispered the same words. Earth heard the call. Humanity will answer. Days later, in the silence of space, the fleet stood ready. Massive engines glowed with power. Commanders checked their maps. Pilots strapped into their seats. Ryan looked out from the window of his ship. He saw Earth far behind him, a blue and green world shining in the dark. Ahead lay a journey across light years. He whispered, not to himself but to the settlers of Orion 7 who might never hear him. "You are not alone. We are coming." Back on Earth, Arvin the historian watched the departure from the observatory. The sky burned with streaks of light as ships jumped into the void. He thought of the words he had spoken in the council chamber. Humanity had once been feared, and still was, but now they carried a new purpose. Not conquerors, not tyrants, but guardians. And far across the stars, the faint signal of Orion 7 still traveled. The invaders above the colony did not yet know that their actions had awakened something powerful. The settlers had placed their hope in Earth, and Earth had answered. The iron fleet of the Deathworlders was on its way. The fleet of Earth stood ready in the cold silence of space. Giant ships floated above Mars, their armor shining in the faint light of the sun. Each vessel was shaped not for beauty but for strength. The hulls carried scars from old journeys, proof that humanity's machines were built to survive storms, meteors, and battles alike. Inside the command ship Resolute, the crew prepared for the long journey. Screens glowed, voices echoed, and engines rumbled with restrained power. At the center of the bridge, Commander Hale stood tall. His eyes moved across the displays as he spoke calmly to his officers. "Check all systems twice. We are crossing deep space. Orion 7 depends on us." On a lower deck, young pilot Ryan sat inside his fighter craft, running through his checks. The cockpit was small, but every switch and screen felt familiar. Ryan had trained for years, waiting for a mission that truly mattered. Now the time had come. He thought of the settlers far away, holding on to hope. He whispered, "We will not let you down." The signal from Orion 7 was played one last time across the fleet. The simple message filled every ship, every station, every heart. "This is Orion 7. We ask for aid." The words gave strength to the crew. They were not flying to conquer. They were flying to protect. Soon the order came. Commander Hale's voice carried across the fleet. "Engage engines. Begin departure." The engines of the great ships roared to life. Blue light burned behind them as one by one they moved away from Mars. Families watched from domes on the planet's surface as streaks of light cut across the sky. Children pointed upward, their voices full of wonder. "Look, the fleet is leaving. They are going to help." In the academies and schools, teachers told the students what it meant. This is the first time in many years that humanity answers a call beyond our own borders. Remember this day. It shows who we are. The fleet gathered in formation beyond the orbit of Mars. Fighters circled the larger vessels, carriers moved into position, and the command ship took the lead. Once everything was ready, Hale gave the signal. Prepare for jump. Ryan felt the shiver of energy as his fighter linked with the carrier. The stars outside his window seemed to stretch. In that moment, he thought of Earth behind him, blue and alive, and Orion 7 ahead, waiting in silence. Then the fleet vanished into the dark, carried by the jump engines. The journey through deep space was long and silent. Days passed, measured only by the steady hum of the ships. Crews trained, studied maps, and maintained their machines. On the Resolute, officers gathered each day to study the enemy. Holograms of the Empire fleet floated above the table, showing their numbers and strength. "They are many," one officer said. "But they underestimate us. They think humans are fragile. They forget what our world made us." Commander Hale nodded. "We do not fight for conquest. We fight for the right of others to live free. That gives us strength no empire can match." Ryan spent his hours in the simulator, practicing again and again. He imagined the settlers watching from the ground, their eyes full of fear and hope. He pictured the Empire ships darkening the sky. Each time he trained, he pushed himself harder. "I must be ready," he told himself. "When we arrive, there will be no second chance." At night, in the quiet of his quarters, Ryan looked at the stars through the small window. They stretched endlessly, cold and distant, yet beautiful. He thought of how humans had once looked at those same stars from Earth, dreaming of reaching them. Now they traveled among them, not only for themselves but for others. Far across the fleet, other crew members shared similar thoughts. A mechanic wrote in her journal, "We are leaving behind safety to bring hope to strangers. Yet it feels right." A medic checked his supplies and whispered, "May these hands heal when the time comes." The closer they came to Orion 7, the heavier the silence grew. Everyone knew what waited for them, the Empire's blockade, a fleet far larger than the colony could resist. Yet no one turned back. Each day, the words of the historian Arvin returned to them. "We know suffering better than most. We cannot ignore it when others call." After weeks of travel, the fleet neared the edge of Orion 7's star system. The jump engines powered down, and the stars snapped back into their familiar shapes. On the main screen of the Resolute, the planet appeared at last, a small, rocky world, circled by the dark forms of enemy ships. The crew grew silent as they saw the blockade. Lines of enemy vessels stretched across space, their weapons aimed at the helpless colony below. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Commander Hale's voice broke the silence. "We have arrived. Orion 7 still stands. Now we show them that Earth has heard." Ryan's heart raced as he powered up his fighter. The time for waiting was over. The settlers of Orion 7 were not alone anymore. The Deathworlders of Earth had come. The days on Orion 7 grew darker as the blockade continued. Above the skies, the Empire's ships floated like black clouds, covering the stars with their heavy presence. Their engines glowed faintly, reminding everyone on the surface that the colony was trapped. No trade ships could enter, no supplies could leave. The settlers were alone, cut off from the galaxy. Inside the colony walls, life had become a struggle. Food was rationed carefully. Families received small shares each day, just enough to keep them alive. Children learned to eat less and smile even when hungry. Water was guarded with strict care, and every drop was counted. The settlers who once worked as builders and farmers now spent their hours repairing what little they had and searching for ways to stretch their resources. In the main square, a young teacher named Taran gathered the children. Even during the blockade, he told them stories to keep their spirits alive. One evening, he sat them in a circle and began to speak in a steady voice. Long ago, there was a world called Earth. It was not gentle. It gave storms, fire, and beasts. Yet the humans who lived there endured. They grew stronger each time their world tested them. That is why many call them Deathworlders. They are not feared because they seek war. They are feared because nothing can break their spirit. The children listened with wide eyes. A little girl asked, "Will they come to help us?" Terran smiled faintly. "We have sent them our call. If the stories are true, then humans will hear us. And if they hear us, they will not turn away." The children held on to those words, though their parents exchanged worried glances. Adults knew hope was not always enough. Still, they said nothing, for they could not bear to crush the spark of faith that kept the young ones smiling. Meanwhile, the invaders made their presence clear. Each day, a voice echoed from orbit, broadcast across the colony. "Surrender, and you may live. Work for us, and we will spare you. Refuse, and you will suffer." The settlers ignored the voice, though fear grew heavier in their hearts. Jorah, who had once doubted Marin's belief in Earth, now stood watch at the colony gates. He looked often at the sky, where the enemy fleet shone like a line of fireflies. He whispered to himself, "If humans are real, if they are listening, please come quickly." Marin, the elder, continued to encourage the people. Each evening, he walked through the streets, speaking to families, sharing words of strength. "Do not give in. Help may already be on its way. We must endure a little longer." His presence calmed many, though even he felt the weight of doubt when he lay awake at night. He prayed silently that Earth had truly heard them. As days turned into weeks, supplies grew thinner. The settlers began to dig into old storage, pulling out preserved grains and dried roots saved for times of great need. They shared equally, but everyone could see the end approaching. Hunger was no longer distant. It was close. Yet the people of Orion 7 did not surrender. They refused to kneel before the Empire. Farmers turned their tools into defenses for the gates. Engineers rewired old machines to keep power running longer. Teachers told more stories of Earth to strengthen courage. Every small act of resistance kept the spirit of the colony alive. One night, as the stars shimmered faintly between the enemy ships, Jorah stood beside Marin on the colony wall. The air was cool, and the silence heavy. Jorah asked softly, "Do you still believe they will come?" Marin looked at the horizon, his face calm though his eyes were tired. "Yes. Humans know what it means to be desperate. That is why they will answer. When they come, the Empire will learn that Orion 7 was never truly alone." The next day, the Empire's ships moved closer. Shadows crossed the surface of the colony as the vessels drifted overhead. The people looked up with fear, thinking the end had come. But no attack followed. Instead, another message echoed from the sky. "This is your last chance. Surrender now, or be destroyed." The settlers gathered in the hall. Faces were pale, voices low. A farmer said, "If no help comes, our children will not survive. What if Earth has forgotten us?" Marin rose slowly. "We cannot surrender. To give in is to lose all we are. Our message is traveling still, across the stars. Somewhere out there, humans are preparing. We must trust the call we sent." The room fell silent. Doubt remained, but so did determination. The people agreed to hold on, no matter how long it took. That night, Terran told the children one more story before sleep. He spoke of Earth not as a myth but as a promise. The humans are said to carry iron in their spirit. When the storms rose, they did not hide. When the cold came, they built fire. When the dark closed in, they made light. Remember this. They are not far away forever. They will come. The children closed their eyes, dreaming of strong ships arriving in the sky, chasing away the darkness. Far above them, the enemy still waited, confident in victory. But beyond the edge of the system, unseen and unknown, lights were already moving through the dark. The human fleet was near. Orion 7 did not yet know it, but the Deathworlders were closer with each passing hour. The sky above Orion 7 had been dark for many weeks. The enemy ships formed a wall across the stars, their engines glowing faintly like a chain of cold fire. The settlers had grown used to waking each day beneath that shadow, their hopes stretched thin but not yet broken. On one quiet night, as the settlers prepared to sleep, the colony sensors detected something new. A faint signal touched the edge of the system. The machines gave a sharp tone, and lights blinked across the control panels. The watchmen at the station froze, their eyes wide. "It is not from the Empire," one of them whispered. "It is something else. Something larger." The message spread quickly through the colony. Families rushed into the square, staring at the sky. They saw nothing yet, only the same cold stars. But whispers passed from one to another. Could it be them? Could it be Earth? Above the system's edge, a bright flash tore through the silence of space. One by one, massive vessels appeared, each surrounded by a burst of light. Their hulls gleamed in the darkness, scarred but proud. The human fleet had arrived. On the command ship Resolute, Commander Hale stood at the bridge. His voice was calm, but inside he felt the weight of history. Before him stretched the Empire blockade, row after row of hostile ships. Behind him waited the people of Orion 7, watching with desperate hope. Hale raised his hand. "Signal the fleet. Form defensive lines. Prepare to engage." In the hangar, Ryan sat inside his fighter craft, his hands firm on the controls. Through the window, he saw the colony world far below, and above it, the Empire's fleet spreading like a dark curtain. But between them now stood Earth's ships, massive and unyielding. Ryan's heart lifted. "We are here," he said softly. "They will know they are not alone." The settlers saw it too. From the ground, their eyes widened as new shapes filled the heavens. Ships of iron and fire cut through the night, positioning themselves between the colony and the enemy. Children pointed upward and shouted with joy. Elders fell to their knees, whispering thanks. Even those who had doubted now felt tears of relief. The Empire ships reacted quickly. Their formation shifted, and their weapons began to glow. A broadcast echoed across space, reaching both the colony and the human fleet. "You dare interfere? This world belongs to the Empire. Leave now, or you will be destroyed." Commander Hale gave no reply at first. He studied the enemy carefully, his eyes steady. Then he spoke, his voice firm and clear. "This world called for help, and Earth has answered. We will not leave." The enemy ships stirred, their engines flaring. They were confident, for they outnumbered the humans. They believed Earth's people were reckless to stand against them. But they did not understand what kind of people they faced. They did not understand what it meant to be born on a death world. Ryan's fighter launched from the hangar, joining the squadrons that formed wings around the larger vessels. Engines roared as the humans prepared for the first strike. Across the fleet, crews stood ready, their hearts steady. They were not fighting for conquest. They were fighting because someone had asked for help. On Orion 7, the settlers could see flashes beginning in the sky. Marin stood on the colony wall, his eyes wet with both fear and hope. "It is them," he whispered. "The humans have come." Jorah, beside him, clenched his fists. "Then the Empire will learn what it means to face them." The first clash began. A line of Empire ships moved forward, firing bright streams of light. The human fleet answered at once. Cannons lit the darkness, sending fire through the void. The battle shook the night above Orion 7, filling it with color and sound. For the settlers, it was as if the heavens themselves had awakened. The children pressed against the walls, their eyes wide, watching the sky burn. Farmers, builders, and teachers held their breath as streaks of fire crossed the stars. The colony trembled, but their hearts soared. For the first time, they believed victory might be possible. Ryan's squadron darted through the chaos, weaving between blasts of enemy fire. His fighter shook, but his focus never broke. He remembered the faces of the children who were waiting below, and that memory gave him strength. "We hold the line," he told his wing. "For them." On the Resolute, Commander Hale gave steady orders. "Keep the colony shielded. Push their flank. Show them we will not fall." His crew obeyed with precision, their movements sharp and disciplined. The Empire fleet had expected fear, but instead they found defiance. Human ships did not scatter under pressure. They held their ground with unshakable will. The settlers on Orion 7 could see it clearly: the Deathworlders had arrived not as conquerors, but as guardians. The battle had only begun, but the message was already clear. Humanity had heard the SOS, and their presence carried the weight of iron. The Empire had thought Orion 7 was alone. Now they saw the truth. The settlers had called for help, and the Deathworlders of Earth had answered. The battle above Orion 7 raged with relentless intensity. The Empire fleet had come confident, expecting to crush the humans with numbers alone. Their ships moved in formation, firing beams and missiles at the human vessels. Yet the humans held their positions with iron precision. Their ships were battered but unbroken, each hull designed to endure far beyond the expectations of ordinary fleets. Commander Hale stood on the bridge of the Resolute, eyes scanning the chaos. "Hold the line," he said firmly. "Protect the colony. Do not let them break our formation." His crew moved with practiced efficiency, adjusting shields, redirecting energy, and coordinating squadrons. Ryan's fighter weaved between blasts of energy, dodging missiles and striking with calculated bursts. He saw enemy ships falter under the precise fire of his squadron. The humans did not rush blindly. They waited, struck, and held their ground. Every move carried purpose. Every shot carried weight. Below, on the colony, the settlers could see the flashes lighting the night sky. Terran gathered the children in the hall, holding them close as streaks of light crossed overhead. "Watch carefully," he said. "See how the humans fight. They do not attack for pleasure. They fight to protect." The children's eyes widened, their fears slowly replaced by awe. The Empire fleet had expected easy victory, but the human strategy was relentless. Fighters attacked in waves, targeting weak points while larger vessels absorbed enemy fire. Cannons fired with unerring accuracy. Shields held firm. The humans did not panic. They had trained for harsh worlds, for impossible odds. Now all that preparation came alive. Jorah, standing on the colony wall, clenched his fists as he watched. "They are unstoppable," he said. "This is not war for them. This is survival." Marin nodded quietly beside him. "They are Deathworlders. They have faced storms, beasts, and hunger that would break any other species. That is why the Empire underestimates them." In the midst of the battle, Ryan's squadron targeted a cluster of enemy vessels threatening the colony. Their engines flared as they dodged and fired. One by one, the enemy ships faltered. Explosions lit the void as human cannons struck with precision. Ryan felt a surge of determination. "For Orion 7, he whispered, "we will not fail." The Empire attempted to regroup, concentrating fire on the human command ship. Beams slammed against the Resolute's hull, rattling the bridge and shaking the crew. Alarms rang, warning of system stress. Yet Commander Hale remained calm. "Divert all power to shields," he ordered. "Absorb their blows. We will endure." The humans' endurance was unlike anything the invaders had faced before. Each strike that hit a human ship barely slowed it. Each counterattack shattered the enemy lines. The Deathworlders did not fight for territory or glory. They fought because someone had called for help, and they would not ignore that call. On Orion 7, the settlers could see the Empire beginning to falter. Their formation wavered. Some ships tried to flee, only to be intercepted by relentless fighters. The colony erupted in cheers and tears. For the first time in weeks, Hope did not feel distant. It felt real. Even as the battle raged, humans rescued the colonists from potential strikes. Automated drones and rapid deploy craft evacuated vulnerable areas and reinforced defenses. Engineers worked from orbit to repair critical infrastructure, keeping water and power flowing. Humanity's fleet was not only a weapon, it was a shield, a lifeline. Ryan found himself facing a large enemy cruiser. Its guns opened fire, but he dodged with skill and aimed for its engines. With a series of precise shots, the cruiser's power failed, leaving it drifting helplessly. Around him, other pilots did the same. The tide was turning. Commander Hale watched the enemy retreat in disarray. Their confidence had been shattered. "Push them back," he ordered. "Do not give them a chance to regroup." The human fleet pressed forward, driving the invaders away from the planet. Above the skies of Orion 7, the night was filled with fire and light, but it no longer carried fear. The humans had proven why they were called Deathworlders. They were unstoppable when defending those in need. They fought with iron wrath, but only to protect. Marin and Jorah stood on the colony walls, watching the enemy ships retreat. The people around them cheered, some crying openly. Terran gathered the children, pointing to the stars. "See them," he said. "These are the humans we spoke of. Strong, brave, and true. They fought for us because we called for help." Ryan looked at the battlefield from above, his fighter steady despite the chaos. He felt pride, not for victory alone, but for the reason they had come. Humanity had not conquered. Humanity had saved. And that was why they would always endure. The battle would not be forgotten by the settlers or by the Empire. Orion 7 had survived. Humanity had arrived, and their wrath was iron, unyielding, and just the night sky above Orion 7 was no longer filled with fear. The Empire fleet had retreated, their ships scattered and broken. The colony, once shadowed by hopelessness, now basked in the quiet glow of relief. Fires still burned in the distance from battle, but for the settlers, the sky felt lighter than it had in weeks. Commander Hale stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching the retreating enemy. His face was calm, though his body still carried the tension of battle. He turned to his officers. "Secure the colony. Provide aid. Make sure no one is left in danger." His voice carried authority, but also a rare warmth. Humanity had come to fight, but now they had come to heal. Ryan landed his fighter on the outskirts of the colony. The ground was rough from hurried construction and small craters from the battle, but the landing was steady. As he stepped out, the cool wind of Orion 7 touched his face. He could hear the distant cheers of settlers, and he felt the weight of what they had accomplished together. Marin and Jorah rushed to meet him. Marin's eyes shone with tears. "You came," he said simply. "We thought we were alone, but you came." Ryan nodded. "We heard your call. No one should face such danger alone. Not when help can reach them." His voice carried the quiet strength of those who had survived harsher worlds than this one. The settlers gathered, cautious at first, then gradually closer. Children peered around adults' legs, staring in wonder at the humans who had come from a distant world. Terran held a little girl's hand, guiding her forward. "These are the ones the stories spoke of," he said softly. "They came for us." Engineers and medics from the fleet worked quickly. They repaired water systems, delivered food, and set up medical stations. The human ships were not just weapons, they were lifelines. Humanity had prepared for survival, and they had brought it to Orion 7. From the colony walls, Jorah looked out at the horizon. The Empire fleet had disappeared, leaving only distant stars and the quiet hum of human ships. He felt a mix of awe and gratitude. "I never imagined anyone could be this strong," he said to Marin. Marin smiled. "They are called Deathworlders for a reason. Their world gave them fire, storms, and beasts. They learned to survive what no other species could. But what you must remember is that they fight for those who cannot defend themselves. That is their true strength. Commander Hale addressed the settlers from the colony square. His voice carried clearly across the open area. Orion 7, you are safe. The Empire will not return soon, and we will help rebuild. You called for help, and Earth answered. That is the promise of humanity. If anyone cries for aid, we will not ignore them. The settlers erupted in cheers. Some wept openly, others embraced one another. Children ran through the streets, laughing for the first time in weeks. Humanity had not only protected them but restored hope. Ryan watched the crowd, feeling a quiet pride. This was not about glory or conquest. It was about what humans could be at their best, protectors, guardians, and survivors. He thought of the journey across light years, the tests of endurance, and the lessons of Earth itself. Every hardship had prepared them for this moment. As the night settled, Arvin, the historian, stepped beside Hale on one of the human ships. He looked at Orion 7, now alive with light and life. They will tell stories of this night for generations, Arvin said. Not of war, but of hope. Not of conquest, but of mercy and strength. Hale nodded. That is how humanity must be remembered. Not as destroyers, but as guardians. We protect because we can. We endure because others may need us. In the days that followed, the human fleet helped rebuild homes, repair farms, and restore power. Teachers resumed lessons, children played safely, and families could finally rest without fear. The settlers learned not only survival but also trust in others. They had called for help, and the universe had answered through the Deathworlders. Before departing, Hale spoke one last time. Remember this, Earth heard you. Humanity will always hear those who call. The galaxy is wide, and many may need help. You are not alone. We will always come if we are needed. Ryan looked back at Orion 7 from his fighter. The colony glowed under the stars, alive and thriving. He felt a quiet satisfaction. They had faced impossible odds, and humanity had proved why they were feared and respected across the galaxy. As the human fleet jumped into the dark reaches of space, leaving Orion 7 safe and alive, the settlers waved and cheered. Their SOS had been answered. Their world had survived. And far beyond their system, Earth's promise shone brightly. Humanity had arrived. Humanity had protected. Humanity had endured. And the galaxy had learned a truth that could not be ignored: when humans hear a call for help, they will come. Orion 7 would never forget that night. The story of the Deathworlders had become a story of hope, and that hope would live forever in the hearts of those who had seen the stars answer their call.